CNN is celebrating and promoting obstruction of justice, efforts that could actually get ICE agents killed. Funny thing about obstruction of justice, though, it's against the law. And CNN might very well get prosecuted because of it. We're going to show you all that coming up in just a second. Also, it's like the classic Great Santini father-son cage match, right? It's Trump versus Musk again, Musk versus Trump again. Who wins? Well, Trump's got a secret weapon. And I think he's going to be able to play that Trump card anytime he wants to win that fight. We'll reveal what that secret weapon is coming up in a second. Also, Mamdani up in New York. He's got this grand plan to have government-run grocery stores in New York City. We talked about it yesterday. We gave you the details. Turns out he's hit one final little snag in his proposal. He can't read or count, and the whole thing's completely, it's a joke. He doesn't know what he's doing. Of course, he's a communist. They're ignorant. We're going to give you all those details and a whole lot more coming up. Now, it's going to be fun, too. You're going to enjoy it. We are brought to you by Birch Gold. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Now just days away from what's been dubbed the Rio Reset. That's the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years, they're telling me. On July 6th, the BRICS nations, that's Russia, China, India, Iran, and other countries, they're expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar. It could very well crater the dollar's value worldwide. They've already been laying the groundwork, and the central banks of those countries have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar, U.S. bonds, and they're getting gold instead in large quantities. How can you protect your IRA or 401k from the potential fallout from this meeting? Well, do what they're doing. Diversify with gold from Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold can be a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is right now. Get a free info kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word Larry to 989898. July 6th is going to be a major meeting among these nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings. Text Larry to the number 989898 and claim your free info kit from Birch Gold. Do it today. CNN had a big segment on an app you can get that informs people about how to circumvent law enforcement at the federal level. The problem is that's against the law. And just moments ago, Kristi Noem announced that they're investigating CNN for possible criminal behavior. Wow. We're going to show you all those details in a sec. But first, here's what CNN did. John Berman. It's this rosy little sort of, public interest segment they did on an app called ICEBlock.
Trump administration steps up ICE raids and mass deportations. One tech developer is pushing back with an app designed to track ICE activity in real time. It's called ICEBlock, and it's controversial to say the least. CNN's Claire Duffy is with us now. How does this work, Claire, and what are the legal implications?
Yeah, John, I talked with Joshua Aaron, who is the longtime tech worker who developed this platform, and he said he really wants it to be an early warning system for people about the location of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officers. So he says he does not want people interfering with those officers' activity, but he does want people to be able to avoid them altogether if they want. So you open the app, it looks like a map, and users can tap the map to report an ICE sighting in their area, and then everybody who uses the platform within 5 miles of that sighting will get a push alert. This is a free iPhone app. It is anonymous. Aaron says he doesn't collect any user data. And what I think is really interesting about this in this moment is we've seen so many of the biggest leaders in tech supporting President Trump, but Aaron is sort of an example of the fact that there are people within the tech industry who are really resistant to Trump's policies. I asked him what he would say to those tech leaders who, for example, were at the inauguration. Here's what he told me. Take a listen.
I understand that you have shareholders to report to. I understand that you have employees that need their paychecks. But at what point do you say enough is enough?
And John, I should say that ICE did not respond when I asked them about this platform and about Aaron's opposition to their activity.
Oh, don't worry. ICE has responded. You'll get the ICE response coming up in a sec. It might be in the form of a criminal subpoena. But just a second here on that really fascinating, in-depth reporting that you just witnessed from CNN about this app where they glorify and celebrate this developer because he's righteous and represents the resistance in Silicon Valley against Trump. Did you notice something about him here? This is him. You can tell he's got the ponytail thing going on, dressed in black. He's Joshua Aaron is his name. You know, I'm no CNN journalist, but I can do just a tiny little insy bitsy little bit of investigation on someone like this. I mean, you're the reporter, you're the journalist, you're the producer, you're an executive, let's say, at CNN. You're doing a feature on an app that you are admitting on the air is controversial, to say the least, considering what it does. And you don't do just a little bit of a search on who this guy is. I did. You could too. There he is on X. Of course, he's on Blue Sky too. Stealing Heather is his name. And he's proud Antifa, it says. The very first identifying characteristic in his bio, other than his Blue Sky screen name, is proud Antifa. And CNN didn't see that. CNN didn't include that in their report. Look at this guy. He's designing a really cool app. You know, he also plays Minecraft in his spare time. He likes long walks on the beach, and he's looking for Mrs. Right. Oh, and he's proud Antifa. Okay, back to you in the studio, John. Bill Malugin at Fox News did a little bit of investigation of his own, not on this guy, not on the app, but about the violence and the threats and the intimidation that federal law enforcement agents that work for ICE are enduring right now. According to DHS, the assaults against ICE federal agents conducting immigration enforcement are up 700% over the same time last year. Last year, 10 assaults between January 21st and June 30th. This year, since Trump took over, 79 assaults. That's a 690% increase. And CNN is cheering it on, giving people tools. Understand, this whole idea of ICEBlock is theoretically so that everyone can report where they saw ICE agents so everyone can avoid it. But if you're a maniac, if you're Antifa, if you believe the rhetoric from Democrat lawmakers like Hakeem Jeffries right now that are comparing federal ICE agents to Hitler's Gestapo squad, then maybe you'll actually take that information and go ambush some of these cops. Obviously, that's why it was designed by Mr. Antifa. Well, earlier today, while touring the alligator Alcatraz down in Florida, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem was specifically asked about CNN reporting on this app by our buddy and colleague Benny Johnson. Look at her answer.
And Madam Secretary, CNN yesterday pushed an app that lets you track where ICE agents are. Tom Homan was saying that perhaps CNN should be prosecuted for that. That's obstruction of law enforcement. Your response?
Yeah, we're working with the Department of Justice to see if we can prosecute them for that, because what they're doing is actively encouraging people to avoid law enforcement activities, operations, and we're going to actually go after them and prosecute them with the partnership of PAM if we can, because what they're doing we believe is illegal.
And they may be prosecuted also for having given false reports on the attack in Iran.
Yes.
They were given totally false reports. It was totally obliterated, and our people have to be celebrated, not come home and say, what do you mean we didn't hit the target? We hit the target prison. You know, the pilots came home and they said we hit the target prison. So they may be very well prosecuted for that. What they did there we think is totally illegal. Okay, let's go. Follow us.
I think what President Trump means there is that dabbling in the top secret intelligence report and broadcasting it could potentially be illegal. There are ramifications when you broadcast a top secret intelligence report like that. But you heard Kristi Noem specifically with regard to the ICEBlock app that they're looking into prosecuting CNN for this behavior and encouraging this lawless behavior, giving people the tools how to encourage this lawless behavior. Attorney General Pam Bondi last night on the same topic. She's the one who would lead that investigation.
You know, we've had Tom Homan on many times on the program, and he's talked about a dramatic increase in violence against ICE agents,
Yes.
over 450%. I mean, really scary numbers. If you have or put out an application or a warning system that ICE agents are in the area, are you guilty of obstruction? Are you guilty of aiding and abetting in that case? And by the way, if you're a sanctuary state, does that status aid and abet just the very status of it?
Yeah, and that's what he's doing. And people obviously are ICE agents, all of our federal agents who are working hand in hand on these task forces, our federal agents from the Justice Department could be injured. He's giving a message to criminals where our federal officers are, and he cannot do that. And we are looking at it. We are looking at him, and he better watch out, because that's not a protected speech. That is threatening the lives of our law enforcement officers throughout this country. And shame on CNN. I just saw that for the first time when you showed it, that they're promoting that app. That's shame on them for doing that. That could hurt our law enforcement officers who are out there protecting them, protecting all of us every single day.
All right. So now you've got the Attorney General who says it is being investigated, and also shame on them. How about, arrest them? Tricia McLaughlin, spokesperson for DHS, also chimed in.
There's a new app that someone has come up with to spot ICE, basically giving people an alert that ICE is coming. I don't know exactly how the app works, but I know that the Department of Homeland Security and the ICE director, Tim Lyons, is worried about this, concerned. And can you tell us your thoughts about this? Do you think that it is meant to at least give people a heads up so that they can get away from ICE, but also concern for the ICE men and women in uniform in addition to that?
Dana, absolutely. Our ICE enforcement officers are seeing a 500% increase in assaults against them. And a lot of this is because politicians like AOC, like Governor Tim Walz, like Gavin Newsom demonize our ICE enforcement officers and give them free passes. And examples like these apps are absolutely obstructing justice. What our ICE enforcement officers are doing is enforcing the rule of law. If these rioters, these activists, and these politicians don't like the law, they should change it. Don't go after our ICE law enforcement. It's disgusting, it's wrong, and it's un-American.
Yeah, she's not wrong. And Tom Homan, the Borders Czar, also chimed in on this at the same time. They're all pretty upset about it, as well they should be. And that's why CNN's in the crosshairs for promoting it and celebrating it. Are there any grown-ups over at CNN left to actually make some editorial judgments? I don't think so. Here's Homan.
White House is calling out CNN and that ICE spotting app that shows agents' locations on a map. Watch this, please.
There's been a 500% increase in violence against ICE agents, law enforcement officers across the country who are just simply trying to do their jobs and remove public safety threats from our communities. And that's something we as Americans, including journalists at CNN who live in many of these cities where illegal aliens are hiding, certainly it's unacceptable that a major network would promote such an app that is encouraging violence against law enforcement officers who are trying to keep our country safe.
But Tom Homan, the question is, does that app interfere with deportations? And if so, what do you do about it?
Absolutely it does. And it angers me. Look, I've been doing this since 1984, Stu. I've been doing this longer than anybody around here. And I just can't believe we're in a place where, a TV network like CNN is talking about this app and educating people on the existence of this app. ICE law enforcement officers, like I said earlier, they're concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. This is a dangerous job. And this app is going to give the bad guy heads up that we're coming, which means more bad guys are going to escape arrest, which makes this country less safe, which is a public safety issue. And on top of that, it's only a matter of time for a bad guy, which is like someone who threw a Molotov cocktail at officers in L.A.,
who the assault against ICE officers up over 500%. It's a matter of time before someone uses that and ambushes ICE officers. This is something we cannot tolerate. We can't stand for. So we're calling them out. And I'm begging the Department of Justice to look into this and hold people accountable. This puts ICE officers at great risk. We're at a place in time where the Democrats are vilifying ICE as racist and Nazis. And on top of this app, I'm scared to death for the ICE officers who go out there every day, put their lives on the line. Something needs to be done. I'm begging DOJ to look in this, take some action.
Tom Homan, thank you very much for being on the show today. Hope we can come back again soon.
All right, so I've got an idea here. While the Justice Department and while the DHS and while other law enforcement entities at the federal level investigate this app and specifically investigate CNN for broadcasting the existence of the app, we need to protect our ICE agents. We need to be able to make sure that this app can't be used to go after cops who are just doing their jobs and finding, pedophiles and kidnappers and human traffickers and drug dealers and arsonists and murderers, right? They're going after the bad guys. And Mr. Antifa app developer is trying to put their lives in danger for doing their job. So there's a way to fix this. There's a way to get in front of this and protect our cops. Hear me out. This app acts like a crowdsourcing thing, right? It's almost like Waze when you're driving and you say, oh, there's a cop sitting there with a radar, right? And you click on a button so that other people know, hey, don't speed here because you might get caught speeding. It's similar to that. What if we all downloaded this app today? And what if we all went to cities like Los Angeles and New York and Chicago and San Francisco and what have you? Not actually physically go there. You just pull it up on the app and just start reporting ICE activity on every single corner of every single city block in every major city in America. What if we effed around with this app, downloaded it, and started reporting ICE activity everywhere? It'll solve a couple of different challenges here with this thing. First of all, it would completely screw with them and their servers and hopefully sort of, lock up the entire app and make it dysfunctional. Number one. If it doesn't do that, it will render every actual report of ICE activity meaningless because anyone who pulls up the app won't know which one is legit and which one is you or me just saying that ICE happens to be there. Number three, if you're in the country illegally and you're a criminal and you're afraid that you're going to get apprehended and deported and you pull up the app and see that ICE is on every block, maybe you'll stay home or maybe you'll actually go home. And finally, it would be fun to mess with them. So just a thought. I'm just thinking, one way to mitigate the danger here to our federal ICE agents is to sort of give them a bunch of false positives and make the entire world think that ICE is on every corner because, well, they are, if you think about it. If you're a criminal and you want to go continue your criminal activity, you should have that thought in the back of your head at all times. ICE is around every corner. So maybe, just maybe, you should get the hell out. So it's Elon Musk versus Donald Trump again, and you may be wondering who wins this fight. Well, I've got a hunch I know who will win. It's going to be Donald Trump, and there's a reason for it. He's got a secret weapon. CNN, of all people, revealed that secret weapon, and we're going to show you what that is in just a moment. But first, there's been an escalation. You know that Musk is against the one big, beautiful bill, which, by the way, just moments ago passed the United States Senate. If you're watching our live stream, it's Tuesday, July 1st. It's 12:20 Eastern time, and it has passed the Senate. It was a tiebreaker. 3 Republicans voted against it, Rand Paul, Tom Tillis, and Susan Collins of Maine. But J.D. Vance swooped in and cast that tie-breaking vote. So it's back to the House. We'll see how it passes the House if it does, and we'll see if Donald Trump gets it on his desk by July 4th like he wanted. But the bottom line is your tax cuts are this much closer to reaching fruition. That said, there's a lot of lies going on around this, a lot of misinformation, a lot of misconceptions about what this bill is, what it isn't, and what the so-called cuts are, and what the so-called debt explosions are. There's lies on both sides of the equation, and hopefully we can cut through quite a bit of it. Elon Musk is still very upset about this bill. He thinks that it's a huge debt bill. He thinks that it's a huge spending bill. It's not. It's actually a tax cut bill. And he went after Donald Trump about it. He said that he's going to primary any Republican who voted for it. He said he's going to start a third party. Donald Trump this morning, leaving the White House on his way to the alligator Alcatraz, was asked tongue-in-cheek, are you going to deport Elon Musk? Here's what Trump said.
I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car, it has one problem. It blows up, So I'm going to give that one to Peter. I'm going to let Peter take it off.
Kind of messing with Ducey there. I want one of those Gulf of America hats. So he's joking around and he says, yeah, maybe we should deport Elon Musk. I don't think you can deport Elon Musk. But then he said, hey, Doge could be the monster that comes back and attacks the doctor who created him. That would be Elon Musk, because, Department of Government Efficiency, if it turns out that those mandates aren't so efficient, those subsidies that Musk companies get aren't efficient, maybe we should do away with them. So the war escalates a little bit further and a little bit further. Elon Musk saw that video and on his X platform replied, so tempting to escalate this, so tempting, but I will refrain for now. For now. I mean, last time Elon Musk escalated something, he suggested that Donald Trump was in the Epstein files. So Lord knows what he's hatching next. Here's the bottom line. If you're a Republican running for office or running for re-election right now, who do you want on your side? Or even better, who do you want to avoid being on your bad side, right? Are you scared of going up against some candidate that Elon Musk is going to fund? Or are you afraid of going up against a candidate that Donald Trump is going to recruit and campaign for? What's more enticing to you? Having a big fat check cut by Elon Musk or having a Donald Trump endorsement? It seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Politics isn't always just about money, I promise you. And if you get on the bad side of Donald Trump and he starts primarying you, well, just ask Tom Tillis. Tom Tillis decided he's going to vote no on the bill. Donald Trump puts out a Truth Social post saying it's time to primary this guy. And within an hour, Tom Tillis is announcing he will not be running for re-election. It seems clear that in the face-to-face, mano-a-mano UFC cage match between Musk and Trump, Trump ends up winning, at least for now. But that's just my speculation. It turns out Trump's got a secret weapon. He's got a secret weapon that Elon Musk does not have, nor will I think he will be able to get. CNN revealed what that secret weapon is. That secret weapon is you.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to look at the strongly approved numbers. So this isn't just Republicans who like Donald Trump. This is Republicans who love Donald Trump. And he's up like a rocket. Look at this. In July 2017, the strongly approved was 53%. That's pretty good. But look at where he is now. 63% of Republicans strongly approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing about 5 months into his presidency. Republicans love Donald Trump the way that Americans love Disney World. The bottom line is 63%. That is a huge, huge base. And of course, it's just part of a Republican base in which about 90% of them overall approve of him, including the somewhat approves as well.
I mean, every politician would like this number here, especially to see it go up. How about compared to other presidents who were Republicans?
Yeah, it's history making. It's history making. What are we talking about here? So why don't we look back? We have all the presidents, Republican presidents, going back over the last 35, 36, 37 years. What are we talking about? GOP, who strongly approved 5 months in. Look at this. George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, 46%. Bush 43, 59. You see Trump, the first term, 53. But look at this. 63%. He beats all the other Republicans on the board here. And I was looking even back since Reagan. And get this, Donald Trump beats Ronald Reagan when it comes to the strongly approved 5 months. And of course, Reagan was coming off that high after that assassination attempt. So the bottom line is Donald Trump is making history with the Republican base. He is more beloved by this Republican base than any Republican base loved any GOP president 5 months in. It is history making.
It is a striking number. Till is stepping down, stepping aside after President Trump threatened to primary him. The question is, how effective is Trump's endorsement? We know it can hurt, but how effective is it?
Yeah, okay. So, the bottom line is, if you're a Republican lawmaker, you see this 63%, you say, my goodness gracious, you do not want to go against Donald Trump because the Republican base is with Donald Trump. And it's not just the polling. We actually have the data to show that the Republican base is with Donald Trump. The times Trump endorsees won the GOP primary for governor and congressional races. Look at this. 2024, 96%. 2022, 95%. 2020, 98%. The bottom line is this. 95% plus of the time, the Trump endorsed candidate wins in GOP primaries. And even in the cases where Donald Trump endorses a challenger to an incumbent, the majority of the time, that challenger wins. So Donald Trump is a winner in Republican primaries. You go against Donald Trump, to quote the movie Good Burger, you go in the grinder. Donald Trump is the key nugget. His endorsement is the key nugget in a GOP primary because he's historically strongly popular with the GOP
And
base.
now there's going to be a surprise primary in North Carolina, so we will be watching that, of course. Harry Enton, it is always a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure's all mine.
All right.
I'm sorry, did he just make a Good Burger reference? A Good Burger reference? That Harry Enton. He's something else. There you go. That's the secret weapon. You're the secret weapon. That Donald Trump will continue to succeed on Capitol Hill and in any of these political showdowns with squishy Republicans, with Democrats, with people like Elon Musk, because he's got over 95% success rate right now with his endorsed candidates in primaries. So you remember the House right now. You're about to vote on this thing. And you're going to think maybe you're going to vote against it, like Tom Massey. Tom Massey is probably going to vote against this in Kentucky. If Donald Trump has had enough with Tom Massey and Donald Trump decides to endorse another candidate against Tom Massey, based on that track record, Tom Massey is toast. But beyond that, he is the most popular Republican president in modern history 5 months into his presidency. Not even close compared to both Bushes and compared to himself 8 years ago, even compared to Ronald Reagan. That's the secret weapon. And in politics, that's kind of important. And in Washington, D.C., well, it's manna from heaven. Now, about Elon Musk and how the Trump's team and his cabinet are lining up to make sure that Elon Musk understands his role, his place, and whether he has anything legitimate to say about the one big, beautiful bill. We'll start with the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, earlier this morning.
Passes. What's your reaction? You guys famously tangled in the White House.
I admire Elon's leadership on rockets. I will take care of the finances.
I do love it when he's got his drop the mic moment. He likes to keep it short, succinct, to the point. Tell you what, I'll deal with the finances of the country. I'm the Treasury Secretary. You keep building rockets, pal. The problem here with the big, beautiful bill is that there's a lot of misinformation and confusion, and I understand that. Listen, for everybody who's upset that there's so much spending in this bill, I'm upset too. You know why there's so much spending in this bill? Because it's not a bill to tackle spending. It never was. This is a reconciliation package. The reconciliation package has to do with taxes and general budget issues. It doesn't have anything to do with regular order, going to the Appropriations Committee, going to the Budget Committee, going to Ways and Means, and actually hammering out what the budget's going to be coming up in the next fiscal year, which starts in 3 months. That process is happening right now. You want to cut spending, you want to revamp entitlements, you want to reimagine how the finances of the government works. You go into regular order and you do that. You don't do it on a reconciliation package. The whole point of this bill was to codify the president's tax cuts that he just ran on and he just promised and he just won on, codify those without the need for Democrat votes, and then put in place enough new reinforcements for border security, something else the president ran on, and mass deportations, something else the president ran on. Get that in now, and then you can go back and look at the other stuff. Suddenly, everybody thinks, oh, this is just a great big budget bill, and this is going to be the new fiscal year. No, we've only got 3 months left in the fiscal year. This is just to solidify the tax policy. That's it. I'm sorry that, and again, if you go back and watch this show from the beginning of the year, I was begging President Trump, I was begging members of the House and the Senate, stop calling this thing the one big beautiful bill. I know you think it's cute. I know you think it's a punchline. It's a joke. People don't understand what that is. Call this thing what it is, a tax cut bill. We are delivering your tax cuts. People don't care if you vote against one big, beautiful bill because it makes it sound like it's some gargantuan, stupid, insane little ball of junk from Congress. But if you vote against a tax cut, people will get pissed about that. Call this a tax cut bill. Anyway, they don't listen to me. That said, the fact of the matter is, when you look at the details of what this tax cut bill does with regard to freeing up huge economic burdens that many people are dealing with right now with regard to taxes on overtime, taxes on tips, taxes on Social Security. Do you realize that the lion's share of the reduction in taxes go to the lower 80% of employees in this country? Those are people who live and die on tips and live and die on overtime. They're getting twice as much on a per rata basis in tax cuts than the top 20% in this country. And there's also fundamental changes in immigration and enforcement in this bill. Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff for the White House, he gets it. He knows what this bill really represents, and he is sick and tired of all the misrepresentations and all the lies about it. He's as sick and tired as I am. Here he was last night.
I've spent my entire life in the conservative movement. Since I was a kid in high school, working, dreaming of the day where we could have a piece of legislation like what exists right now, Sean, what President Trump has brought to the precipice of passage. Each and every one of the individual titles in this bill would be considered one of the great achievements in the history of the conservative movement. The title, for example, building the missile defense shield for the United States of America, Sean, so we can be safe, our children can be safe from foreign adversaries in this growing era of intercontinental ballistic missiles as nations race for supremacy. The section on this bill enshrining border and homeland security, this is the most far-reaching border security proposal, homeland security proposal in my lifetime. Sean, not just my lifetime, going back to Eisenhower, going back to since we've had conversations about the border, Sean. I take this seriously. I've stood by the families whose kids have been murdered by illegal aliens. We made them a promise. Most importantly, the American people voted to fulfill that promise in the last election. This bill fulfills it. It is the largest tax cut and reform in American history. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, 100% expensing for new factories. Think about that. Every single business owner with a dream of manufacturing in America can deduct 100% of that cost to make the American dream come true here in the United States. Here's another one for you, Sean. The largest welfare reform in American history. work requirements on food stamps, work requirements on Medicaid, the two largest welfare programs that exist. And now we are attaching work requirements to those programs. Orders of magnitude larger than the welfare reform that Republicans enacted into law in the 1990s. I am sick and tired of the lies about this bill that have been perpetrated by opportunists who are trying to make a name for themselves. This is the most conservative bill in my lifetime. Tax cuts, defense, border security, homeland security, welfare reform, and the largest spending cut in one bill that has ever been enacted. So, Sean, let's work together. Let's pass this bill. Let's get it to President Trump's desk by July 4th.
All right. Now, that appearance by Stephen Miller, fiery but peaceful one, I must say, it was happening while the vote-a-rama in the Senate took place. I just want you to know, in case you missed it in the middle of the night last night or toward the middle of the night, the Democrats went to the mat last night to make an amendment to this bill. There was one thing that they were just crossed the line. As far as they were concerned, this cannot stand. We will not allow this to happen. We've got to go to the mat on this thing. We're going to make sure we get a vote in the Senate on this. We want to save this thing. What was it? What were they so upset about? What were they willing to die on the Hill for? Funding for Planned Parenthood. That was the priority from Democrats last night. Funding for Planned Parenthood to make sure that killing babies was still something that your tax dollars would go to. It lost, thank God. The only other thing they were really intent on making sure happen is that illegal immigrants continue to get free health care out of the tax dollars you pay in your back pocket. That did, in fact, stay in the bill. Sadly, Republicans tried to remove benefits like free health care for illegal immigrants. What are we even talking about at this point? Free health care for illegal immigrants. That's what Democrats are most focused on, and Republicans were not able to defeat that amendment. The work requirements for Medicaid for various benefits. You keep hearing about this from the Democrats all the time, that all these people are going to get thrown off of Medicaid. Millions of people are going to lose their health care. No, they're not going to lose their health care. They're going to lose you paying for their doctor's appointments. They're going to lose you paying for their medical visits and their medical bills. And who are those people that are going to miss out on you paying for their bills? Well, we were hoping illegal immigrants, but that retains. We're going to have to wait for the next legislative session to get that done. But the other people are able-bodied young men, not married, without children, who are sitting on the sofa playing Xbox and refusing to even try to go out and get a job. But you got to pay for their Viagra pills. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma this weekend on CNN made it clear exactly why there should be not even a debate about these changes to the Medicaid program that I'm pretty sure you don't approve of in the first place.
Root inside a system that was designed for those that need it the most. I heard a while ago you talking about the work requirement. Okay, so what the work requirement does is requires an able-bodied individual with no dependents and no sickness to work, volunteer, or go to school 20 hours a week. And then the paperwork that you guys were talking about, instead of having to prove your means once a year, it says you got to prove it every 6 months.
6 months.
Now,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but that is not a burden. That is just lazy if you're not willing to do that. And if you're not willing to work 20 hours a week or volunteer 20 hours a week or go to school 20 hours a week to try to better yourself, why is it up to the American taxpayer to pay for you not willing to help yourself?
Thank you very much. And I just want to reiterate, in case you missed it, Democrats they're throwing people off of Medicaid. They're throwing people out on the streets, sick people who will not be able to get their health care. It's a lie. It is 1,000% a lie. If you are disabled, if you are sick, if you are unable to work or fend for yourself, out of the kindness of our hearts, we will go ahead and pay for your medical bills. But if you are able to work, if you are not disabled, if you are not sick, all we are asking is that you work 20 hours a week. And I understand, oh, no, the economy is so bad, man. Oh, bullshit. There are jobs to be had. You don't want to work. There are absolutely jobs to be had out there. You know it. I know it. We see it all the time. There's help wanted signs everywhere. That's fine. You can't find a job to your liking, pal? Okay, volunteer at a church. Volunteer at screw it. Volunteer at the Gay and Lesbian Center downtown if you want. Volunteer at the Red Cross. That's all we're asking. Get up off your lazy butt and do something. Contribute. 20 hours a week, 4 hours a day for 5 days. And then fill in paperwork twice a year. That's all you got to do, and you'll get all your free health care that you want. Frankly, I think that's too good for you. But it is too much for Democrats. That absolutely, they think that's outrageous. They think it's draconian. They think you're a fascist for demanding such an arduous burden on people in exchange for us paying for all of your doctor's appointments and all your medical care and the aforementioned Viagra, maybe even Cialis. All right, we'll let Senator Mullen finish up here.
Medicaid was designed to help those in need when they needed it the most. And that's what we're trying to preserve Medicaid for. We're trying to make sure it's there for those in need.
I will say part of Senator Josh Hawley's concern, and he cited a woman who wrote to him. She explained that her husband works as a carpenter. Their private insurance covers her, 4 of her kids, but her 5th kid has a brain condition that is under Medicaid at this point. And to her, she's worried that she'll be one of the people that slips through the cracks. I hope you're right. I hope she is not one of those folks, but there is real concern about that. Before we go, because I know you.
Unbelievable. CNN, keep doing what you're doing. By the way, do you recognize that guy manning the anchor desk on the weekends at CNN now? You know who he is? He's the infamous fiery but mostly peaceful protest guy from the Summer of Love 2020. And of course, he gets promoted to the anchor desk. All right. What's the reality? What's the truth behind this bill? Because you keep hearing from people that it's a turd sandwich. You just heard from Stephen Miller about the great things in it. Let's let this guy have the final word, economist James Fishbach.
Why do you think Elon Musk is wrong about it?
Well, the big, beautiful bill is not merely a good bill. It's a great bill. You take President Trump's campaign promises. Think about it. Deliver tax relief for working families. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, delivering tax relief for seniors. That benefits hardworking Americans all over this country. That's in the big, beautiful bill. Increase in border security of $70 billion, a one-time increase to ensure that we have more detention center space, more ICE agents, a fully sealed border. The truth is that the illegal migrants that came into this country under President Biden, over 12 million, they're costing taxpayers about $150 billion a year.
But also CBO, speaking of money to taxpayers, says that this bill could increase it by like trillions. I mean, you have a number that's talking about if taxpayer money is an issue. Is that not a concern of yours?
Well, the interesting thing about the CBO survey, their forecast is that they don't take into account, one, the tariff revenue, which is going to be about $2 trillion over the next 10 years. Number two, they don't take into account.
If the tariff revenue stands,
Sure,
right?
but
That's
just,
an if, but go
and
ahead.
there's a lot of ifs here.
Sure.
And the second one is if you secure the border and save taxpayers $150 billion a year, Trump has done that 99% reduction in border crossings since President Biden was thrown out of office. What ends up happening, Laura, is you save the taxpayer money in the process. The CBO has not put that in their model. And then finally, they assume that the Trump tax cuts, which everybody in DC, Republican and Democrat, would tell you were going to continue, they assumed they would expire, and therefore their model does not accurately reflect that. The truth of the matter is the CBO is not a nonpartisan organization, Laura. 8 out of 10 employees who work there are registered Democrats. We should be skeptical of the forecast for that reason, but also for the substantive reasons I just laid out.
The Republicans also have touted the CBO over time. Is it not a good organization or good entity at all if it doesn't support what you're saying?
No, what the CBO did 20 years ago, 30 years ago under President Clinton or President Bush is very different than the highly polarized environment that exists today. I think both you and I can agree with that. The truth of the matter is when there's gaping holes in their models and forecasts, when it comes to tariff revenue, when it comes to the actual net benefit of cutting out illegal labor and illegal immigration that actually saves the taxpayer money, the CBO model does not estimate that whatsoever. This is a good bill. It delivers on President Trump's promises, and it's a shame that because it doesn't have Elon Musk's electric vehicle subsidies, that he would oppose it.
All right. Well said there. And by the way, let's just reemphasize a couple of things that you just heard. Number one, it doesn't take into account tariff policy or the domestic manufacturing that will come as a result of the tariff policy. If, in fact, tariff revenue doesn't come in from imports, instead, it will be corporate taxes and personal income taxes from all the employees who will be working in the factories, just like the GE factory that was just announced in Kentucky. That's number one. Number two, shutting down the border has a twofold effect. Well, really a threefold effect on our budget. Number one, it costs a lot less money to maintain a secure border than it does a porous border, because you're not dealing with the employees needed to maintain those ICE detention facilities that were overflowing, all of the Border Patrol agents that are just shuffling paperwork around for all of the illegal immigrants that have come into this country. Also, those illegal immigrants are no longer coming into this country, so they're not getting benefits. They're not getting the EBT cards that were getting handed out, or the phones, or all the other benefits that they were getting under Joe Biden. And also, because of the mass deportations that are now in effect, people are self-deporting. 1 million so far have already self-deported. They're leaving. That means they're either getting out of our public school systems, which cost us money, they're getting off of the public dole, which cost us money, or they're leaving jobs that they were working at illegally that hopefully Americans will then take. If they get those jobs, that means they're no longer getting those unemployment benefits and other public dole benefits that they were getting. And in fact, they're making money and paying taxes back into the government. CBO doesn't do any dynamic scoring on any of these budget issues with regard to what I just laid out. And that's just the tip of the iceberg on this thing. Pass the damn bill and get those tax cuts back into the pockets of the American people. The only legitimate argument you're hearing from people right now on Capitol Hill who are concerned about the debt and deficits is that if they don't pass this bill, our debt goes down. We actually will start reducing our deficits and reducing our federal debt starting January 1st, 2026, if we don't pass this bill. And that is true. Again, we deal with facts here, and it is true. If they don't pass this bill, our debt will go down. Our deficit will go down next year. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because your taxes will go up. That's right. If they don't pass this bill, every single American gets an automatic tax increase. It's automatically triggered because the 2017 Trump tax cuts were set to expire on December 31st of this year. So yeah, it's true. If your greatest concern is the debt and our deficits, then not passing this bill will absolutely improve that picture. But the average family of foreign America will pay about $1,700 more in taxes. See, they're leaving that part out, aren't they? They're leaving that part out. Our favorite commie Mamdani up in New York has a brilliant plan. Remember how he's going to have government-controlled grocery stores? We'll get into the details of it in a moment just to remind you, but I just want you to know the bottom line, punchline, spoiler alert, the entire thing is a fraud. The entire idea is a complete and total fraud. Zohran Mamdani is either an ignorant fool, illiterate, or a complete and total liar. Could be all three. But his dream of having government-owned grocery stores just went up in a cloud of dust because Commie Mamdani can't read. It's hilarious. We'll give you those details in a second. First, though, Donald Trump was asked about everybody's favorite commie, Mamdani, earlier today.
I think he's terrible. He's a communist. The last thing we need is a communist. I said there will never be socialism in the United States. So we have a communist. So I think he's bad news. And I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with him, watching him, because he has to come right to this building to get his money. And don't worry, he's not going to run away with anything. I think he's, frankly, I've heard he's a total nut job. I think the people of New York are crazy. If they go this route, I think they're crazy. We will have a communist for the first time, really, a pure, true communist. He wants to operate the grocery stores, the department stores. What about the people that are there? I think it's crazy.
And that just the tip of the iceberg. That was earlier today. And now, just moments ago, when asked about Mamdani down doing the press conference for the alligator Alcatraz, he was asked once again about the speculation that Kami Mamdani might be in the country illegally. And, well, he responded, watch this.
Your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zohran Mamdani, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mamdani?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron. If you look at the per capita, Florida gets 1/3 of what New York gets in terms of the numbers. Why don't you give us those numbers?
Yeah, well,
Because that's what we should send him.
Yeah, well, like sometimes people say Florida gets more because they count Social Security recipients, but that's not money to the state. Those are seniors that live here. If they move to North Carolina, you could count it there. So it has no interaction with the state government. They get more in the city and state governments than we get.
Right, substantially. We're going to be watching that very carefully, and a lot of people are saying he's here illegally. He's, we're going to look at everything, and ideally, he's going to turn out to be much less than a communist. But right now, he's a communist. That's not a socialist.
It's true. He's not a socialist. He's a communist. No, I did that on purpose there, Kevin. He is. And he loved the fact that he says, listen, if he obstructs ICE, if he obstructs DHS, if he obstructs federal operations in his city, we'll arrest him. It's that simple. All right. So now that's what Trump just said moments ago about Mamdani. Here's what Mamdani said. We shared this with you yesterday. It's a quick clip, but he breaks down the details behind his plan to have a communist government-run grocery store in New York. Because, whenever the communists take over the distribution of food, things work out really well. I mean, just look at, all right, it's never worked out well. People end up starving to death. The good news is if you're in New York, you can always, go to New Jersey or Connecticut or Westchester County, up where AOC is from. All right. So, but here he was explaining the details of this plan.
City-run grocery stores, I proposed a pilot program of 1 store in each borough. These are 5 stores in total. The total cost of this is $60 million. This is less than half the cost of what the city is already set to spend on a subsidy program for corporate supermarkets that has no guarantee of cheaper prices or collective bargaining agreements or even accepting
So
SNAP
you're
or
not
WIC.
looking
All
at
right. So remember, we talked about this yesterday. His plan is $60 million, 1 grocery store per borough. That's 5 boroughs. So $12 million a year for each grocery store, $1 million a month for each grocery store. And he's getting the $60 million from so-called subsidies for corporate grocery stores. Now, we were confused about this yesterday. And we didn't delve too deep into it because we had so much other Kami Mamdani content from yesterday. When he said that there shouldn't be any billionaires. The follow-up question was never asked, which was, please, Mr. Mamdani, would you please let us know how much you think people should be allowed to have? Please tell us what the marker is. Where will you draw the line? At what point is it inappropriate for anyone to make any more money than the Zohran Mamdani limit, right? That was yesterday. So we were confused by this whole subsidies for corporate grocery stores. Because, see, we go to New York a lot. I was just in New York last week. I used to live in New York. I know New York. As far as I know, there's only 1 corporate grocery store in New York, like in the entire island. It's not like there's Kroger's or Giants or Ralph's or anything, Food Lion or stuff that doesn't exist in New York. They can't afford to be in New York. There's 1 corporate-owned grocery store that can afford to thrive in New York. It's Whole Foods. Of course, naturally, it's Whole Foods. What's the subsidies for corporate-owned grocery stores that he's talking about? That's $60 million that he's going to take, half of the $120 million, right? Well, it turns out it doesn't exist. There is no $120 million subsidy for corporate-owned grocery stores. That thing that he's going to take half of to subsidize his Soviet-style grocery stores, 1 in each borough? Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York, who actually understands the budget of the city, he pointed out this article in the Washington Examiner. Zohran Mamdani's plan for government-run grocery stores is built on $140 million in subsidies that don't exist. Why? Because he misread the website. I mean, listen, being a communist means you're economically illiterate. We know that. But you literally can't read the website that has the details on the city budget? Economic illiteracy plus actual English language literacy. I mean, it is his second language. He comes from a third world country, don't you know? Tim Carney has the article at the Washington Examiner, and Tim did a great job with this. Here, let's read it together, shall we? It's pretty funny. When Zohran Mamdani, the New York governor, mayoral candidate for the Democrats, defends his idea of socialist grocery stores, he says he can pay for them by cutting city subsidies to corporate grocery stores. Remember, we just played that clip. The claim is based on a basic misunderstanding of the city's current grocery subsidies. The money he plans to use to pay for his city-owned grocery stores is money the city doesn't have. Well, when has that ever stopped a communist from his grand plans? I mean, remember Stalin's 6-year plan that ended up with how many? 10 million people dying due to starvation? Didn't stop Stalin. Didn't stop Mao with his great march forward. No. He screwed Stalin. He killed 20 million. But it doesn't matter. They take money that doesn't even exist if they have to. They'll find it. They're zealots, after all. Specifically, he wrongly believes that the city is spending $140 million to subsidize private grocery stores. He thinks he can take half of that money and use it to build government grocery stores. Quote, we will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging, Mamdani said. In another interview, he went into a bit more detail, saying he had already detailed how we're going to pay for the entire agenda. According to Mamdani, his 5 grocery stores would cost $60 million. That should compare to the city's existing program called City Fresh, where they are set to spend $140 million subsidizing corporate grocery stores. So we could take less than half of the money the city is already set to spend and actually deliver the results. So there you go. He named the city program that's already spending this money subsidizing corporate grocery stores. It's called Fresh, the City Fresh program. So Tim Carney asks, what is the Fresh program? Well, it's the food retail expansion to support health. It's a bundle of tax breaks and special regulatory relief for grocery stores that open up in so-called food deserts, poor neighborhoods where the city has concluded residents don't have adequate access to produce and other healthy foods. The subsidy includes some tax breaks. Building taxes stay at the pre-improvement level for a few years. Land taxes are abated. There's some tax breaks for building the store, and some of the transfer taxes are cut. The store still collects and remits sales tax, pays payroll taxes, pays corporate income taxes, etc. By the way, as an aside, when we were doing the math yesterday on how they were going to spend $1 million a month on one single grocery store in each of the 5 boroughs, I forgot to mention those stores don't have to pay payroll tax. They don't have to pay city property taxes. They don't have to pay city income taxes. So they're still going to spend $1 million running their grocery store at a loss, without even having to pay taxes or fees like any normal company would have to pay, because nobody knows how to run a business like a communist government, right? Am I right? The Fresh program can also include some zoning and regulatory relief. The tax breaks have saved the grocery stores a few $1 million each year. But here are the hard numbers. All in all, the city has given up about $30 million in tax revenue through this program. In the last 6 years, since Fresh got into full swing, the program has reduced revenue by about $20 million total, according to the city's estimates. That is, it costs an average of $3.3 million a year. So this program would take 42 years to cost the city the $140 million that Mamdani says the city is set to spend. Did you catch that? So he says, hey, we've already carved out $140 million on this program. We're already paying that in subsidies. Makes it sound like the city's writing a check for $140 million and handing it over to these so-called corporate-owned grocery stores. That's not what's happening at all. They're giving tax breaks to some stores in some neighborhoods, and at the moment, it only amounts to $3.3 million a year. But he's already committing to spend $60 million a year. He can't read. So why does Mamdani use the $140 million number? He misread the city's webpage. The city's Economic Development Corporation estimates that grocery stores have invested $140 million of their own money thanks to the Fresh program. Mamdani is counting the $140 million in private spending as government spending. The website says the private corporate grocery stores, you know, the big, bad, mean, ugly corporate grocery stores, they have spent $140 million for grocery stores in New York so far on the program. And in return, they get about $3 million in tax breaks. But Mamdani, like any good commie, sees that dollar figure and thinks that it's his. It's not. It's the money that's been spent by those private corporations that he likes to destroy all the time. The $140 million isn't his, but he's a communist. So he'll just, confiscate it. Here's the graphic. $140 million. That's the amount of money invested into New York City's economy through Fresh. He saw that graphic on the website and thought, hey, that's money that the city has invested. No, it's the money the corporations have invested. Most specifically, I'm guessing Amazon. They own Whole Foods. It's not your money, pal. New York City isn't spending that money. That's the money that the grocery store is spending. And he says, I'm going to take half of that and I'm going to make my own grocery stores. That money was invested not by the city, but by corporate grocery stores. A truly socialist way to read that is that Mamdani believes that money invested by private grocery stores is his to spend. The more likely explanation is that Mamdani misunderstands the government website and thus is planning to pay for his grocery stores with money that doesn't exist. If it weren't so frightening, it would be hilarious. But nobody challenges this guy. By the way, the more we learn about what a nightmare this man is, about how he cozies up to Hamas, his anti-Semitic musings about the elimination of the Israeli state, the lies about his background, the complete and total economic illiteracy, let alone actual illiteracy and inability to put together a coherent thought when it comes to policy, it really makes you wonder about the Andrew Cuomo campaign, doesn't it? I mean, how lousy was he that he couldn't even use any of this stuff against him? One more thing, though, by the way. If you think that Kami Mamdani's plan to take central control of the New York City government and the means of production and capital and ownership of everything in America's largest city is confined to just these 5 grocery stores that he's not going to be able to do because he doesn't have the money that he claims that he has, think again. What he is already planning to do for grocery stores, he also wants to do with housing. Take a look at this terrifying video.
Go further toward the Vienna model. We'll have to go beyond the market. We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing, ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social housing projects that offer good homes and strong communities to everyone. We won't decommodify housing overnight, but we know what we have to do. And we have history to guide us.
Wow. Decommodify housing. See, the problem with the homeless criminal vagrant situation in New York or any other city is that housing's been commodified, he claims. Just real fast, because we've already spent plenty of time blowing apart and destroying his ridiculous, economically illiterate pipe dream of government-owned grocery stores. And by the way, I cannot wait for any member of the media to challenge him on this and see what he says, as he must admit that the $140 million he plans to use doesn't exist. But can we just break this apart really quickly? It's a short video, but there's a whole lot of hidden gems in here.
Further toward the Vienna model, we'll have to go beyond the market.
Go beyond the market. You ask anybody who's taken any kind of economic class, Thomas Sowell just turned 95, I think, yesterday. This will kill the man. If he hears this, the idea, no. The way that you fix a problem in your economy is to just go beyond the market. Because every single time in world history, when the government decides that they can exercise their control over a market, it ends up a disaster and people die. Show me one example otherwise. It doesn't exist. There's certain laws in this world that you cannot resist, and one of them is the market law of supply and demand. Okay, so he just said, we're going to fix this by going beyond the market. Who's we here? You know who we is. We is the government taking your money and doing what they think is best with it. And watch what they're going to do. And the graphic is beautiful with it. Tear down all of those broken window buildings there and grow beautiful new government-owned buildings.
We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership.
Community land trusts, which is government money, and they'll buy up properties on the market. Do you know how expensive New York City property is? And they're going to buy it with community land trusts. But of course, because they're the government, they're going to be able to undermine all of the actual market value of that property, buy it at the price they decide, because they're the government after all. They'll probably exercise some kind of government domain over those properties because it's for the common good, which, by the way, then affects the property values of all of the private landowners in the city. You know, the real way to fix the problem in New York is to just do away with private land ownership altogether. That's a false construct, you know. There's no such thing as private land ownership. The land belongs to the people. That's where this is headed. Okay, so you're going to buy up with tax dollars private-owned land, but you're going to set the prices because you're the government and you'll use eminent domain for it. You tear down the existing building.
We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing, ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social housing projects that offer good homes and strong communities to everyone.
Look, she's watering the flowers in her window box. Isn't that nice? It's social housing, government-owned social housing. Have you ever been to New York? You know, they tried this back in the 60s and 70s. It was called the projects. It's where the gangs came from and still live. Have you seen the government housing projects in New York whenever you're there? It's a blight on the city. It's where the criminal activity is. I don't recall seeing lovely women or perhaps an amorphous transgender guy with long hair watering flowers in their flower window box when I go past the projects. But you know why? Because when I'm in New York and I'm going past the projects, I keep my head down and I walk at a really fast pace. You don't want to make eye contact with anyone. Something bad might happen. It's where Spider-Man hangs out to collar most of his bad guys. And now suddenly this guy thinks it's a great idea. This is what happens in cities like New York. They elect somebody like this. He ruins everything. And eventually things get so bad that you have to come in and get a Republican to fix it all. So what Kami Mamdani tries to do with grocery stores, which now he's going to discover he can't do unless he just doesn't admit the truth and continues to lie about the money that he's going to use for his grocery stores because he misread the website, he will next try to do it for housing, and he'll try to do it for transportation. He won't let private cars in the city anymore. It'll just be taxis and government-approved transportation. Eventually, there won't be private ownership of anything because that's what communists do. Because you see, anytime a communist takes over a government, as long as there is an alternative choice for the people to make outside of the government system, the people will make that choice. And the only way it ends up working is if the government takes over all of it. And that is absolutely the plan. You know how I know that? Because I know the history of the last 125 years on this planet. And it literally happens every single time. Maybe he'll admit defeat. Maybe he'll admit he was wrong about the grocery stores. Maybe he'll admit he's a moron. But probably not. The question is, Who will be the first person in the corporate media that just celebrated this guy and had him on all their talk shows and threw him softballs? Who will be the first person to step up and say, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, do you? Who do you think it's going to be? Or will it be anyone? All right, that's it for today's show. Thank you guys for watching. What a blast. That was fun. We had some bangers there today, including some breaking news on the Senate bill and on that video from Trump. Thank you for that one, Kevin. I appreciate it. Do we have any super chats we want to plow through here? And oh, hey, Angela, look at that with a $10 super chat right at the top of the show. Thank you for that. After listening to the 940-page bill, watching overnight lies from the Hall of Dunce's libs, followed by 24 hours. Hall of Dunces would be very cool at Disney World, right? You got your Hall of Presidents, and then right next door would be the Hall of Dunces. Here's Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and 24 hours of clowns on the Votorama. I'm more sure than ever liberalism is a mental disorder. It only is when you realize that they're lying the entire time. But when you think that they actually believe what they're saying, then yeah, you recognize that there is something, there's a screw loose up there. Thank you, Angela, sweetheart. That was fabulous. $2. Methinks Mr. Man Bun Antifa may want to lawyer up. Oh my God, what a great name for him. There he is. Man Bun Antifa. Oh, he's just a tech developer who resists the Trump policies. That's all. Man Bun Antifa. Thank you for that, Angela. That's hilarious. Richard Murray with a $10 super chat. I think Harry Enton not so secretly loves Donald Trump. He does seem to get excited, doesn't he? When he talks about the numbers that Trump is getting. I think that he really is a numbers nerd, and I think he is just astounded by some of the things he's seeing right now. I don't know where he stands politically, but he does like the narrative, that's for sure, because it keeps him on TV, Richard. Thanks for the $10 super chat. Psychological projectionist with £2. Government generosity inspires entitlement, not gratitude. Amen to that. And only someone who lives in a more socialized government entity like the UK would recognize it so clearly. Thank you. Muchas gracias, psychological projectionist. Angela with the $2 super chat. In Oklahoma, had your Brahms burger yet? You know, it's funny. We usually go to Brahms within 24 hours of landing. It took us 2 days, but we went and got a ton of burgers yesterday. I actually didn't have one because I wasn't hungry for lunch. My son, who's 18, you can get a bag of 5 burgers from Brahms for like $6.50, and he plowed through the entire bag of burgers. I'll be going today, Angela, and you're right. Brahms is the best. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd still take an In-N-Out double over a Brahms burger, but in Oklahoma, there's nothing better. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. How'd you know I was in Oklahoma? Did I say I was in Oklahoma, Kevin?
I don't think so. Did you
I don't
mention
think
it on
so
radio?
either. I said I was in the heartland.
Did you mention it on radio?
No, my radio audience does not. I usually don't.
Maybe Angela just remembers from last year.
That's possible. This is the Oklahoma set. But I thought yesterday I just said I was in the heartland. But I am in our Oklahoma remote corporate location. Thank you for that, Angela. Sharp eye. Sarah Greenberg. Yes, yesterday. I did say I was in Oklahoma, Sarah? All right. I don't remember what I say day to day. I'll be honest with you. When I do this show, I am wasted. I can't remember a damn thing. I'm so drunk right now. I'm not drunk. I'm about to be. My workday ends in about 30 seconds. But I'm not going to drink much. Should I shave tomorrow, Kevin?
Yeah.
I'm on a corporate retreat, though. I feel like it's a good look.
Corporate retreat is
This is my corporate retreat. We're sort of charting out the next year for the company.
a corporate retreat where you stay in Oklahoma and I'm stuck here in the swamp.
It's my corporation, not yours. Do you see I have a fighter jet there? I've got the USS Missouri made out of Lego blocks right there. I've also got this is my father-in-law's. Oh, speaking of fighter jets, the Thunderbirds, the Air Force Thunderbirds are in town right now because they're going to be doing a big July 4th air show at Tinker Air Force Base right near where I am in Oklahoma. It's very cool. So you may have heard some jets overhead during the show. I like the Thunderbirds. It's fun to see the pretend Blue Angels try to step up and do what the Navy does better. Have I alienated enough people now? Anyone else? Anything? Go Navy. Thanks. I think we're good. Kevin, you got anything else for me? You're just going to leave me hanging?
No, sir. That's it.
All right. All right, guys. Thanks for watching today. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, in the same location, Oklahoma, where the wing comes sweet and I'm playing. And the waving wheat can sure smell sweet when the wing comes right behind the rain. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.